we get started, council, just by way of, we have those other meetings tonight. We're going to do those later. We're going to do this.
We have an audience here to listen to the important stuff.
We're not going to put our audience through those meetings tonight. So we do have 3 other meetings, but what we will have to do is if we do decide to go back to closed, we will need to temporarily recess this meeting, go to those other 3 meetings, come back to this, then go to closed. Clear as mud? We'll figure it out if we get there. So we're going to jump into our regular city council meeting at this point. We're going to start tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance by Travis Dunn.
Flag. They were not this way. Everybody standing up. All right, recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
My gosh, it's one of those nights. It's a demotion. All righty. Okay, we'll go on to item 4.2. Thank you, Travis, by the way. Appreciate you doing that. We'll go on to item 4.2, city council comments or recognitions. Anything from council tonight?
I would just like to say personally how great it was to be able to participate in the Memorial Day ceremony on Monday. To share some personal feelings in that type of atmosphere is something I just haven't been able to do, and it was just meaningful for me to be a part of that, and I just appreciate the American Legion Post 140 for putting that on, and then all of the hard work from our events people and our Unified Fire and everybody that helps out with our Memorial Day breakfast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of echo the same feelings that Matt. Not only was the breakfast in that park amazing, but the cemetery was amazing. So our Parks Department has done a wonderful job there, and then all the extra hands that helped out. So we had a great turnout at both events, and Councilmember Basham did a wonderful job. So.
Okay, seeing no other comments from council, we will move on to item 5 at this point. For public comment, at this point, audience members may bring any item within the city's purview to the city council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@herriman.gov or by visiting herriman.gov/agendas and minutes, where there's a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So I just have one form tonight. We'll start with this. We'll start with Jeff Daring.
Sorry, I'm not sure what the protocol is. As you'll see on the form, I represent an ownership group. We own a retail complex on the corner of Herriman Boulevard and Rosecrest Road. We've been trying to reach the council members to see if we could set a meeting to discuss some of the issues we've run into during that development, and as we try to get into building our 3rd building. So I've spoken with Mayor Palmer about this a little bit and with the city planner, but I don't know the protocol on getting on the agenda or setting a meeting with the city council to discuss that further. Maybe you can enlighten me on that.
Jeff, let me reach out to you on this. We'll discuss whether we can bring you back to a work meeting or whether we'll have you kind of meet kind of one-offs with the council. So I will.
An email was sent out a couple weeks ago, but I didn't get a response, so I figured this was the next best thing. So
you're okay, Jeff. Yep. So Nathan did send us an email today with kind of some background more to the council. So perfect. I will work with you this week.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much.
to you. Appreciate it, Jeff. Any other public comments at this point?
I would love to. I submitted a form just
You're okay. Come on up here, Jonathan. You're fine.
Thank you, Mayor.
If you could just state your name for the...
Jonathan Brooks. I live right around the corner here in Herriman. What are we doing on enforcement? You know, we're in a drought right now, and as I come home from work, 5 or later, or during the day when I'm not at work, I see, and I know it's probably mostly like HOAs, but people, businesses, HOAs, maybe government buildings like schools and stuff are watering in the middle of the day, and that makes my blood boil. We should be watering at night. Is there any sort of code enforcement we can do? We're in a drought, and I really appreciate what the council's done on flipping strips like right outside of here. That was spectacular. 1, can we get more of that? And 2, can we get some sort of code enforcement? Like, do we have to have the city council have a mandate? Because we all have to do our part, and it's just frustrating when I see thousands of gallons of water just going down the drain. That's my comment.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll reach out to you on that, and I'll let you know what options we've got. Any other comments tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 6 on our agenda. We'll start, these are city council reports. We'll start with Jared.
We continue our negotiations with Wasatch Front Waste Recycling District to exit that service district and get our own private. We'll keep going with that, and then I'll save my Unified Fire Authority update for that later meeting as it pertains to the budget.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Teddy?
We just had our Jordan Basin Improvement District yesterday morning. We congratulated our team that won 3rd place in the competition for Utah wastewater treatment skills. We also got an award for the plant of excellence there as well for our Jordan Basin Improvement District plant. We continue to go over budget and next year's projects as well, and we've awarded our expansion project out to an engineering firm, so more to come on that project. South Valley Chamber meeting this morning, we had a presentation given by Mountain America Credit Union where they proposed a partnership with a U.S. Olympic team for their biathlon. So they have the opportunity to partner and actually go participate in some biathlon training and shooting at the same time. So that was my reports.
Thank you, Teddy. Matt?
I do not have anything this evening.
Okay, Tara?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I will just briefly report, Matt, myself, Sandra, and Blake attended ICSC. That's a retail recruiting conference in Las Vegas last week. A lot of good visits came out of that. Herriman's a hot spot right now, I will say, as far as retail and other businesses wanting to come here, so you'll see more on that down the road. And then Wendy and I joined Salt Lake Community College down in College Station, Texas for what they call the Towns and Gowns Conference. It's for cities that have colleges that interact with them in the city, so that's always good for us to interact with Salt Lake Community College. And then we followed that with a tour yesterday out at the campus here, and just really been really informative to know future plans for Salt Lake Community College here in our community and the University of Utah, the 2x2 campus. So a lot of exciting stuff there. And then we did have Council of Governments COG last week. I was asked to serve on the ZAP. They are redoing the ZAP board, the ZAP bond again. There were 4 mayors assigned to that for the county. I was assigned to that, so that will be good for the city as we move forward with that. So there's myself, Mayor Gettle from Midvale, Mayor Jackson from from Mill Creek, and Mayor Baroker from Riverton. So those will be the 4 of us representing about $130 million available is what kind of the guess is on that, but a lot of intricacies there. So, okay. So with that, we don't want to delay this next agenda item anymore. We're going to go to item 8.1. I think long time coming for our department to get to this day. So we're going to have the oath of office ceremony and badge pinning for Herriman City Chief of Police Cody Stromberg. So,
Mayor, think I'll go down there for this because this feels weird sitting up here.
Let's
so-
do it.
Actually going to feel weird talking to you, so I'm going to step to the side just for a second. Would like to thank everyone who's come out tonight for this opportunity with Chief Stromberg. And I saw Chief Carr. He'll always be Chief Carr, even though he is now growing a beard in his retirement. We're thankful he's here. And your family and friends who are here. This is our opportunity to formally recognize Chief Stromberg. He's already taken on that mantle. But this is a significant responsibility and weight. And I see some other chiefs from across the valley who can tell you, being the deputy chief comes with a certain level of weight and responsibility. And as you found in the last month or so, that chief's responsibility, accountability, that weight that is on your shoulders is significantly different. So we're going to go through. We want to recognize you. We'll have your wife, as she's actually going to do the pinning. Invite your family to come up, and then I believe the chief, or the mayor, do you have the badge? Mayor has the badge. So we'll invite him to come down. And again, we'll go through this. One, recognize that weight and responsibility, and then I'm hoping everybody is here to show you, Chief, we're behind you. We've got your back. We will do our best to support you, and we wish you the absolute best. And then at that point, once you have your badge on, our city recorder, Jackie Nostrom, will give you the formal oath of office, which I think you've already done. So Cody has been serving as chief for interim chief and then formally as chief for a while, but this is just a great opportunity. So Mayor, if you would come down, and your family, and then when we're done with all that, we'll give you a moment to say something.
It's my meeting?
Say something.
Are you going to say something about it, though?
He's going to say that.
As Chief Carr can attest, and Amy, being the chief is not just for you. There's a family behind you that's going to support you, that's going to send you off every day to serve this community. So that's all I'm going to say with that. Nicole, thank you for giving your husband to us, to this community, for all you do for the community as well, for your family. And so we've got something for Nicole tonight.
Jackie do the formal oath of office.
Raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Cody Wayne Stromberg,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity. If I could have just a moment, Mayor, before we take a photo, and I'll apologize in advance if you talk to our city attorney, you know that brevity is not a trait that the police department has in spades. However, I have the agenda items, so I'm just going to talk till you cut me off.
Own it, Cody, own it.
As much as my mug and my name has been on social media and in print and agendas over the last couple of weeks, tonight has very little to do with me and a lot to do with the men and women that are standing behind me and those that are even right now out on the streets of our community keeping your family and mine safe. I feel like we've built something great here over the last 8 years. I'm excited to see that continue. Not a lot of people know this story, but about 8 years ago to the day, our former chief car and my good friend was driving back from a training in Montana when I got a phone call, and he told me about this grand adventure that he was about to embark on. And what he said specifically to me was, "I'm leaving and you're coming with me." There weren't a lot of options, not that I would have turned him down, but my reply to that, although I had a lot of questions, was, "When do we start?" And it's been a great adventure. We really have built something that I feel our community can be proud of. I'm proud of as a community member. And I'm fortunate, nobody gets to stand where I'm standing today without a support system, as you have rightfully pointed out, Mayor and Nathan. And I recognize mentors that I've had over my career that are here today. Of course, Chief Carr, Chief Van Jordan, many others who have laid the foundation and provided me opportunities without which I would not be standing here today. Most significantly, as you pointed out, Mayor, is my family, to whom I owe a lot and who have sacrificed a lot to allow me to be here today. So I'm grateful for them. I will just point out the symbolism of what just happened, where this badge is the most public symbol of the trust that our community places in us as public safety professionals. And so it's intentional that this badge is handed to me by our mayor, who represents the people that live in this community. My pledge to you, Mayor, and to the citizens of our community is to return it to you when my time is done, unblemished. And that is my promise and my commitment. We have the best team, sworn officers, civilian support staff, civilian enforcement staff. We really do have a top-notch group here, and we're doing great things, and I'm excited to see it continue. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the public trust that you've placed in me. I know everybody wants to stay for the riveting budget discussions, but I've been told there are cookies downstairs.
To see when I find a replacement. To go down.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, I think we'll carry on at this point. Got a text from Chief Carr, said, wrap this bleep up, I want to go. So that was Troy Carr's parting words to me tonight. So only Chief Carr can put it. I got those texts the same a lot while he was here too. Oh, Chief. Okay, we will go on to item 8.2, our Youth Council Legacy Project presentations. Jackie.
Hi, thank you for hearing this item, Mayor and Council. Our Youth Council does have one of the requirements to do a legacy project and to present it to the council. So we do have one group that is wanting to do their presentation tonight. So I just wanted to introduce Naya, Madeline, and Sydney to do their presentation.
So, like she said, we have to do a legacy project each year, and this is the one we chose. How do you control the slides? Oh, this, okay. Oh, there we go. So, this is the introduction to our project. We started this project wanting to make a big impact in our community. In order to do this, we reached out to multiple groups such as South Durham Rotary Club, Herriman Library Team Rainbow Alliance, and the Good Club about different ways to make a difference and an impact. Through this, we realized two things we wanted our project to focus on. One, the impact and meaning of service, and two, the project itself. So the project is we planned on making multiple tie blankets to donate to multiple tie blankets like the ones you see here, well, one you see here, to donate to the Lifting Hands organization to help people displaced by war, violence, or natural disasters. To get the necessary supplies, we reached out via social media to connect with the community, and were met with a generous amount of donations. We also plan to run various workshops while making the tie blankets to teach those involved about the meaning of service and its impact, and the Herriman City Youth Council itself. And here were some of the groups we ended up working with. The Good Club is one of them, and they are a service club that has been active for 5 years and meets every Thursday. The average age of the group members is 11 to 13 years old. They're an amazing group that is very passionate about service, and after participating in one of their service activities, we gained a deeper understanding of what we wanted to accomplish together and where we wanted to go with our project. The second group we are working with is the Herriman Teen Rainbow Alliance. The Herriman Teen Rainbow Alliance is a group of teens that meets twice a month that I founded last year. The group is dedicated to creating a welcoming community through a variety of crafts, activities, and collaborative projects. And then,
okay, so far, what we've done, we've got the necessary supplies to make the blankets, and we started working with the Herriman Teen Rainbow Alliance to make the tie blankets. And during the activity with them, we talked about the importance of the project we're doing and who we want it to affect and why we think it matters so much for our community. Next up, we're planning on working later in June with the Good Club. We're doing a workshop with them to make more blankets, and we also want to teach the people who will be coming about how to give back to our community and what we do as Herriman City Youth Council ourselves. And we want to do more workshops with the Herriman Teen Rainbow Alliance later in June after seeing how much the activity was a success.
Like all good projects, we did have challenges. We had to find multiple groups to coordinate with, especially ones that would gain a lot of people to come and help us and all the hands that we need to make all these blankets. We had to gather the materials. A lot of people donated them to DI or just threw them out because they had no use for them, and that is easier, especially if they don't know what we are doing, and it's hard to get things out there. Like, of course, there's Instagram and all these social media platforms, but not a lot of people come across that, so that was a big challenge. And then we also had a hard time figuring out what to do for a project because there are so many possible things we can do to help our community, and it's hard just to know where to start and what to focus on specifically to help, especially because we're just a group of teens. We don't have the funding or we're not very well known. So that was a huge challenge to already get ourselves out there. In the end, our goal was to make as many tie blankets as possible and show others the impact that the service will have on people, so we can encourage more people to get involved into these groups and into the community and actually want to help people no matter their age, background, history, just to help.
And that is the end of our service project.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I love that. Thank you, thank you, ladies. Love this project, and we're still in touch on that date, right?
Yeah.
To get to you.
So I changed it
'Kay.
because after talking to people, we're looking to June 4th, if that's possible.
June 4th. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Keep me posted on it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you have a number of how many blankets you guys did?
So currently we've only done 3 because the Rainbow Alliance runs very short and it's only an hour. But we're planning to do many more since we have the supplies to do so.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Good job. Yes, Tara.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your project and thank you for being involved in Youth Council. It's neat to see a project that encourages other people to serve too and to bring that in. And so, and thank you for presenting to us. So good job.
Thank you, ladies. Good job. Appreciate all you're doing. Thank you for being here. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 9.1. This is a public hearing to receive public comment on the tentative fiscal year 2027 and 2028 City of Herriman operating and capital budgets. Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a short presentation before the public hearing just to give a brief overview of the budget. It is hopefully much shorter than what you heard 2 weeks ago. So I did want to go over the citywide revenues again, just to highlight a couple things. One is approximately 22% of our revenue comes from property tax. So that does include our fire safety area and then the police service area. And just for the public, even though we've mentioned this many times, those districts fund both police and fire, and that is the majority of the funding, so they aren't used for other purposes. You'll notice, and this is citywide, not just the general fund, but 15% of our revenue is sales tax. And you can see the other major portion is bond proceeds for the water fund this year that we've discussed a few times. On the expenditure side, especially in light of the discussion we had in the work session about long-term projections, I did want to highlight a couple of things. So one thing is citywide, about 30% of our budget is personnel, and as you are aware, Personnel is not the easiest thing to cut or shrink in the case if we were looking to decrease expenses. Our capital outlay is 27%, as you can see. That does have a little more flexibility. However, as we've discussed, sometimes deferring capital projects is not the best idea, especially if they're maintenance projects. It can actually cost us more money down the road. We spend about 7% of the citywide budget on debt service. And what was interesting to me, almost 8% of our budget goes to water purchases. So as you're aware, council, but just for the public's consumption, we both produce water through wells, and then we also purchase water from Jordan Valley. We have, in the past few years, tried to do more blending of the water so the water isn't as hard for the residents. Specifically looking at the general fund, which is the largest fund for the city, this is most notable as sales tax is 40% of our budget. So when you hear us talk about sales tax and bringing new businesses to the city and how important that is, it is funding 40% of what the general fund pays for, which is your typical services you would expect a city to provide, such as public works, parks, and those type of amenities. And as you can see, we do receive about $3.2 million from other governmental agencies. The majority of that is from the state for road funding. We get a portion of the gas tax that goes through a very complicated formula. As you can see, we do have some other franchise tax, but in the general fund, property tax is a very small component. We receive about $1.2 million. So even if we did a dramatic increase to property tax, while it would be beneficial, it isn't going to make a dramatic increase in our revenues. On the expenditure side, as you can see, personnel is 55% of our budget. And I remember in the work meeting, Council Member Anderson asked about what we're doing compared to other cities. For a lot of other cities, that personnel number would be closer to 70 or 75%. So it does demonstrate that we are trying to run lean as a city. We've said that as staff many times that we do run lean, but I think this does show that. Operating is 21%, and that's really the tools and supplies we need to do our jobs. And I do like to point out the city's investment in our roads, so pavement management, and that is to repair our existing roads. We have a budget of $2.25 million for 27. Looking at departments, and I won't necessarily go through all the departments, but as you would expect, the police department is about a third of our budget in the general fund at about $11.7 million. Parks is about $4.5 million or 12%. As you can see, the remaining departments are a very small percentage of the overall department. However, we do have a lot of departments that are making up that number. And then transportation, which is a fancy name for the streets department, is 10%. And then transfers out is transferring money to other funds, the majority being for debt service, which is paid out of a different fund, and then also any capital projects. One major component of any budget is personnel, so I thought it would be good to highlight some proposed personnel positions and changes. So we are proposing 5.5 new positions. However, 3 of those are in the police department, as you can see. So we are proposing a parks manager and an arborist assistant for the parks department. As you could tell, they were one of our larger departments, and currently we actually don't even have a department head in the parks department. It's a deputy director. That is one proposal that's included in the budget, is to actually make that a department head, and especially considering the size of the budget, that seems reasonable to staff. And then the police is proposing 3 new positions. One thing that we do differently than other cities is we restrict part of our property tax money that comes from growth, which means new homes, new businesses. We restrict that money to be used for expenses due to that growth. So most of the time that's going to be new employees. And then in addition, we did have some intern requests, which from a staff perspective are a fairly low cost opportunity to get some of that lower level work done. The total less police, because the police is being covered with that new growth money, is about $368,000. Looking at capital projects, I won't necessarily go through the entire list, but I did want to highlight a couple of these and give a little bit of extra description on. So the first is the Public Works facility. So staff is proposing to add an additional $900,000 to design work. Granted, the city has not completely designed the Public Works complex, and we aren't exactly sure at this point how to pay for it, but we are moving towards the concept of doing additional phasing for Public Works. But regardless of the financing source, we do know where the Public Works complex is going. We do know where the buildings will go. So that seemed an appropriate use of funds. One thing that social media discusses a lot is Rosecrest Road. So this does include the second half of the money to repair that when Jordan Valley Water is done with their work. And then we do have some amenity replacements or improvements. So the first one's the Rosecrest splash pad. I did put improvement or replacement because staff does need to do some work on if there's repairs that can be done or what a replacement would look like. And another one I would like to highlight is due to the city joining Transjordan in anticipation of leaving the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, we are required to make a contribution. It's our buy-in into Transjordan, and we are a member of Transjordan. And then in fiscal year 28, a couple that I would like to highlight is remodel work for the animal shelter, which is anticipated to move into the old Station 103 when the fire department moves to their new station. And then once again, we do have some funds put in place for park amenity replacements. And the goal for staff is this will be a continuing amount, and that every year we will start replacing amenities as needed. And then we are proposing to continue the street light replacement retrofit program. In capital equipment, we are proposing to replace some vehicles, and then of course we need to add a couple for the new hires that are being proposed. You can see the total there. And just as a reminder on the police, we have been setting aside funding each year for these replacements, so we do already have the funding in place for those. Continuing into 28 with more police replacements. One thing I do like to note is this budget does include funds to go into a capital replacement fund for the general fund to start building up funds. The goal being we don't have these wide swings in funding needs. We will already have the money set aside in a plan when vehicles need to be replaced. I did put in here the table that I had to go through very quickly when we adopted the tentative budget. This is just showing where all of the funding is coming from for each of the different types of funding. So you see we're using about $2.3 million of fund balance in capital projects, which is appropriate because we set funding aside when for one-time projects. These are all one-time projects. As of note, we have had a couple of funds. We used to for our street signs and street lights, we used to actually have the developers pay us. We would purchase the lights and install them. That switched a few years ago where the developers do that themselves. So it is time to close these funds out, so those would be used for capital projects. And similar in fiscal year 28 is we are planning on using $4.9 million fund balance for these one-time projects. We will still have a balance in the capital projects fund if any emergencies arise. And then just moving to the impact funds really quick, since we have had quite a few discussions on impact fees and some of the constraints on funding due to debt service requirements. We are proposing funding these three projects, the most notable being Jackson Park. I will note the original proposal was $3.5 million. The city manager's proposal was to reduce that to $2.3 million, recognizing we will probably need to do additional phases for Jackson Park, and that is just due to funding availability. And then on transportation impact fee, as you can see, we are proposing 3 traffic signals, and then we do have debt service on the bond that was issued last year to cover those MDA obligations, which are mostly road-based. Then in the water fund, just as a highlight, every year we do compare the budget with the rate study that was done back in 2024 and make sure we are progressing on track with that. And as you know, in the fall, we do a reconciliation and comparison and then look to see if the rate increase that's being proposed in the rate study is still valid. Last year, as you remember, we did actually recommend decreasing the rate increase from 13.1% to 6.5%. And then the capital projects fund, and this will end up coming back to you. The water rate study proposed bonding for a number of capital projects, so this would be the first phase of that. As you can see, it's about $29 million. I will need to work with the Public Works Department on phasing, and then we will come back with a more concrete plan before the bonding's issued and get approval on that. With that, are there any questions for the public hearing tonight? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, we will go on to the public hearing then. At this point, we'll open that, and same rules apply before 2 minutes. Any comments, Jonathan?
No. I'm your captive audience. The price of admission of wanting to be involved, right?
Love it. Okay, I look for a motion to close the public hearing then.
I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Teddy, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve.
I thought that's all we're doing is the public hearing.
There's no action.
No action on this one? I'm just following the F. Okay, I guess we're good then. Is that just is that the requirement then, is just to hold the public hearing then? No motion, no action. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Kyle. We'll move on to 9.2 then. Now I'm all discombobulated. 9.2, right? Okay. 9.2, public hearing and consideration of a resolution amending the City of Herriman master fee schedule. Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we are discussing the master fee schedule. As you may or may not remember, it was 2 weeks ago, we did have Lewis, Robertson, and Birmingham. They've changed their names, so I still get tripped up. They did present the fee schedule or the fee study they had done for development services. So this is to ratify those changes, along with, there was a few fees that staff had recommended be added, mostly from our city attorney, dealing with appeals, variances, and other appeals and requests. In addition, in development services, we did realize when a new subdivision needs to connect their streetlights, we didn't have a fee to charge them, so we were actually absorbing that fee. So this will pass on whatever Rocky Mountain Power charges us to connect those fees for that subdivision. And then finally, we realized we did not have a declaration of candidacy fee on the fee schedule, so that would add that. I did want to go over just a few highlights of the fee study, just really quick. So it is proposing to use the same valuation table that the building department has been using, but they are recommending every year we update that to the ICC building valuation data each year. Of note, the amount being charged in each of those valuation tiers is proposed to drop 22% for each of the tier. In addition, multifamily is proposed to decrease 58%, along with other commercial building decreases of 11%. On the flip side, we did discover we were undercharging some other structure fees and those flat permit fees, and we were also undercharging some planning fees. So overall, there is an anticipated revenue drop that has been modeled into the 27 and 28 budget. It was something we were expecting when the fee study would be done. Are there any questions before the public hearing? Okay, thank you.
We're easy tonight, Kyle. Okay, we'll open the public hearing on this item. See no comment, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any comment, or I'll look for a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve resolution number R17-2027 FY2026. Approving an amendment to the schedule of fees charged by Herriman City.
Motion by Matt,
I'll second.
second by Tara. We'll do a roll call vote. We'll go Tara.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Teddy.
Yes.
Jared.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That motion carries. Thank you, Kyle. Okay, we'll go to item 10, our consent agenda. Look for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written as written with a comment after.
Second.
Okay, motion by Teddy, second by Jared. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Teddy, to you.
Justin, congratulations on your award. Right? Yeah.
Just like I got an award.
You got
Another one?
You got a project.
Another
yep.
award?
So,
It's amazing.
good job.
Thank you, Justin, for all you do and your team. Okay, thank you, Teddy. Okay, we'll go on to 11.1, discussion and consideration of proposed amendments to Title 10 Land Development Code to permit detached ADUs, accessory dwelling units, on lots or parcels that have a legal owner-occupied single-family dwelling in compliance with city standards. Michael?
Good evening, and glad to be back on this item. We've taken a lot of time to work through a number of details, and I'm really happy with how this draft has turned out. Let me just give a quick background for those who may be listening and not as familiar with this project. This was initiated by our city council, I think largely in response to requests we've been hearing from our residents, that they were interested in permitting detached accessory dwelling units in the city. Of course, previous to this, we do allow currently internal accessory dwelling units. Approval of this proposal does implement an element of our moderate income housing plan, which is a strategy that was required by the state that we have adopted. It is also compliant with Senate Bill 284 that was just adopted this year, requiring cities that have a population of 5,000 or more residents to permit detached ADUs. And the ordinance does include safeguards that are fairly typical within the industry and within our region. Really, the question is this the right tool for us? Do we have the right metrics? We'll talk briefly about what certain standards that are required by the state. So there are some things we can't do or can't do anything in conflict with what the state is requiring, but there are a number of things where we do have some latitude to apply this ordinance that we believe is the right fit for us. Just the kind of the process of this legislative review, Planning Commission began with a public hearing. Following that public hearing, they actually had tabled the proposal and had asked staff to do some additional amendments to the draft. That was eventually recommended approval, 6-0 to the City Council for consideration. When you saw it in February, there was an approval vote to table the item, continue it for future review, really pending the state's adoption of SB 284, which did happen in March. So following that, we recompiled all of the information. Another part of this proposal and why the draft looks a little bit different to you tonight is it does combine the internal and detached ADU ordinance into a single chapter, which will improve the administration of the ordinance. So we've prepared this report for your consideration for tonight's review. Again, in the public summary, we did not receive a lot of public comment. We received one that was opposed and one that was supportive. But as you know, a lot of these comments, there's a lot more interest than maybe what we see in a formal public hearing. It was also very interesting that our own Planning Commission chair came and addressed you as part of this. She had an opinion as a resident that was a little bit different than the majority of the Planning Commission, and I applaud that she felt desirous to share that with you. Anyway, so those are the public comments that were provided to us. Again, this is a kind of a short list of what's required by the state. Again, there are certain things that we can and cannot do as long as we are compliant with these standards. This is just a quick chart just showing what the internal ADU standards are currently and what the proposed detached ADU. Again, they're two different products. They can have different standards, but you know, they largely do work fairly similar. One of the key issues that the council had directed is only one ADU per allowable lot. That was something that the commission had recommended to allow both. But I think our recommendation of one per lot is more in line with what we're seeing throughout the Salt Lake Valley. And I don't know about the greater state of Utah, but I think that is a pretty typical standard. So we do have some benefits that come along with adopting this type of a regulation. And again, we did include those standards that would protect our interest. We discussed some concerns about potential utility cuts, and the recommendation is to require extension from existing utility lines that would discourage road cuts. We also had talked about the desire to set a potential impact fee, but as the council knows, we would need to complete some type of a study to justify and establish what that fee would be. So we anticipate that that would be something that the staff would need to implement in a follow-up proposal to the council for consideration. So moving forward, if this were adopted, we would just certainly apply what are the fees on record today. You know, what would we use? And again, we're already doing this with our internal ADUs. Oh, and we also included the requirement to track. I think that was one Councilmember Anderson requested that. So as typical, the council has the opportunity to approve the proposal. You could modify the proposal. We can continue it if there's something else that you want to have staff research and prepare for consideration. You can also deny the proposal. Now, in denying the proposal, we could become non-compliant with the state. There's a certain deadline as far as when we were supposed to adopt a modification to our ordinance, so there is some risk there. This is the summary of the items that are in the recommendation. I won't go through all of them. I know that you're familiar with these. But again, staff is making a recommendation of approval. And although these are slightly different than what the Planning Commission had recommended, again, they did recommend approval of a detached ADU ordinance as well.
Okay, comments from council on any of these?
Just curious from the parking standpoint, the way the code, I'm sure, reads that these spaces are to be provided. However, is there anything that says that they have to be utilized? I know there's enforcement issues. I'm just like curious.
You know, we have an interesting ordinance that says if you have a garage and you end up parking someplace else other than your garage, it's possible that the city could use this ordinance to require, hey, you need to be parking in your garage instead of someplace illegally. I don't know how in the world we would actually enforce that.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I've never seen another city that has that standard, but it's something that's in our ordinances right now. Really, the key thing when it comes to enforcement of this measure, is someone parking in a legal spot or is it illegal? Is it blocking a hydrant? Is it blocking, so we're doing enforcement based on complaint, as you know, and whether or not somebody's parking illegally.
Just a little clarification, if it's a public street, you can't tell them that they can't park there, but in order for this just says 2 spaces. We're requiring 2 off-street spaces.
Yeah, it's off-street, yeah, it is off-street.
We can't force them to use them, but to build one, they have to have that.
Right.
I'll just speak, I think we landed in a good place on this. I know there was some pushback from some groups to even go smaller on the lots, right? And I think I'm open to that down the road, depending on how this, because I think we've got enough guardrails on other areas, as far as parking, off-street parking. But I think I'd like to try the 10,000 square foot lots to start. And I think down the road, I'd be more open to some lowering that number down the road. But I want to see how this plays out in our community first.
Very fair. I think that's a good, wise approach.
Yeah, and I know we've been pressured to kind of rush this through last year, and we knew the state was working on it. So I think taking the time to really formulate a good first knock at this, and if we need to adjust it as we go, I think that we have that space and that opportunity to see what's going to work and those other hurdles we don't see yet. I still think utilities are going to be a struggle on a lot of these lots that want to do this, and sewer being the most critical one and the hardest one to put in.
When in previous cities where I've worked, there's always been a lot of interest in this type of product, but because they tend to be owner-builder, or at least the owner is trying to act like the general contractor, they move slow. A lot of times permits are applied for, but not completed. They're just slow getting through the process. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, great job. Great for your team, too.
Yep, thank you for taking all of our feedback and working on this.
I mean, I know it sounds like we're not, like, but for public consumption, I would say we've been working on this for a while. So I think this is just coming to us now after all the feedback. So we've talked about this for months, just so everybody we've been talking about this for months, and this is finally coming back after all the feedback. So this is a big decision, but it's been 6 months to a year in the making.
At least,
so.
yeah.
I don't see a reason to belabor it then. Let's take a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2026, number 11, amending Herriman City Land Development Code regarding accessory dwelling units.
Okay, got a motion by Teddy.
Second.
Second by Jared. We'll go Jared.
Yes.
Teddy.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Tara.
Yes.
I vote yes. That motion carries. Thank you, Michael. Okay. We'll go to 11.2, an item I still don't get even with this memo. Discussion and consideration of an underwriter engagement agreement with Stifel, Nicholas and Company Incorporated for underwriting services in relation to refinance of the 2015 A and B sales and franchise tax revenue bonds. Kyle.
Pay off that remaining money to financing your house.
I think Councilmember Henderson probably said it better than me.
Approved.
So basically, what the underwriter does is they sell the bonds. They're like a fancy salesperson. When we did issue a bond last year, we did go out to the open market, but due to market volatility, we even ran into issues last time we had to delay the bond sale because all of a sudden the rates started shooting up. Just with the volatility, it made more sense to do what was called a negotiated sale, which means the underwriter is going to market these bonds on our behalf and find the best seller and the best rates. We did go through a formal bid process with our financial advisor, Zions Bank, Jonathan Ward. You probably know him well. We did end up with a tie. We did receive proposals from all of the major firms within the city, or within the state, excuse me. It did come down to KeyBank and then Stifel, which I always called it Stifel before I was corrected by somebody at Stifel. Okay. And then our purchasing policy actually says if you're at a tie, pick the lowest vendor, which is Stifel. I will say, while Stifel is new to the city, we have worked with KeyBank in the past on negotiated sales. I have worked with Stifel at other cities, and I've specifically worked with Matt Dugdale, who is listed as our primary contact, and he will do a good job for us. I have all confidence in him. Other than that, are there any other questions for me?
Not now.
Save some money.
I'm just glad we've got a financial advisor on the council. Okay, sounds good to me. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve an underwriter engagement agreement with Stifel, Nicholas and Company for underwriting services to refinance the 2015 A and B sales and franchise tax revenue bonds.
Okay, motion by Jared.
Second.
Second by Tara. We'll go Tara.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Teddy.
Yes.
Jared.
Yes.
I vote yes. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We could have fit a lot more on this agenda tonight. Oh, we got those other 3 meetings then.
Dude, slow your roll.
I was all ready to be done. Like, texting my wife, I'm gonna be home early tonight. Oh, I'm still catching up from last week, so. Okay, well, that brings us to the close of our general meeting tonight, this one. We have several more to go. We'll be here all night. Next planning commission meeting is June 3rd at 7 o'clock. Our next city council meeting is June 10th at 7 o'clock as well. Events, the rodeo starts tomorrow, almost sold out. Friday and Saturday are sold out. A few tickets left tomorrow, but not many. Hungry Herriman Food Truck Roundup is happening every Monday out front here at Crane Park, starting at 5. Friends of Herriman, their summer production also starts next week, starting with their Sensory Night on June 6th. So we're going to do we need to temporarily recess this meeting, and then we'll go to our other meetings. So I need a motion to temporarily recess our general meeting.
I'll make a motion to temporarily recess general city council meeting.
Motion by Teddy.
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will go on to our Community Development and Renewal Agency agenda. We'll start with the public hearing tonight, a public hearing to receive public comment on the tentative fiscal years 2027 and 2028 Community Development and Renewal Agency of Herriman tentative budget. Kyle.
Thank you. Because 2 weeks ago I did give a very thorough overview of the budget, and it was the beginning of the night, so I didn't rush through it. Tonight I just want to highlight a few things, especially on the expenditure side and obligations of each of the different project areas. First one is the town center, and just as a reminder, that's where we currently are at. City Hall is located in town center. We do have a couple participation agreements. One is with HTC Communities, and that's to repay them for infrastructure that has been put in. And the next one is new that was issued last year to Elevated, which is the developer of the Commons at Herriman Town Center. You'll notice the amount is fairly small, so basically how the agreement is set up is they receive any I don't want to call it leftover, any funding that we have remaining after our debt service obligations and then our HTC community payments goes to them. So once the debt service payments are relieved, that funding will go to Elevated per their agreement, and there is a cap on that, and it is also combined with the sales tax incentive agreement. Moving on to the business center, this one is fairly simple. So we do have a long-term agreement with the Sorensen Foundations. You will notice the amount is fairly low. That's because they did agree when the Herriman City Council revised their reimbursement agreement, they did agree to participate in pond lift station improvements near the Slick campus. So the 680 actually was reduced from their normal, what they would get in their increment. Moving on to town center. So the newer agreements are not necessarily interesting, but how most of them work is the taxing entity pays us 100% of their tax increment, but then we have to rebate back a certain portion. I think it makes it easier on the county and the state's end. As you can see, we do have we call them mitigation payments. We have to have payments back to the school district and then Salt Lake County. In addition, we do have an agreement with Anthem Center to reimburse them for infrastructure improvements, and there is a cap on that also. I do want to make note, there is a affordable housing set aside with this project area. We are anticipating to contribute about $128,000 in 27 and then $136,000 in 28. And at the end of 28, we anticipate the housing fund balance will be about $829,000 and change. Moving on to the Innovation District. So that is the area with Bullfrog. We also have mitigation payments to the school district in Salt Lake County. And then we do, as we've discussed, we do have an agreement with Herriman Industrial Number 1 to reimburse some infrastructure improvements, but that has not been triggered and they have not requested it. The Innovation District also has a set aside of about $20,000 a year. This has a smaller projected balance. As you can see, about $137,000 at the end of 28. And then our newest CRA that is starting to gain some traction, this is the Auto Mall area. So it's the Auto Mall and then retail along 126 South. The notable is there's no property tax increment. There's only sales tax, so only the city's participating in that. And we do have sales tax participation agreements with Butterfield Commercial LLC. Those are for the pads in front of Herriman Boulevard and Copperview Plaza and also the garden plots. And then the First Auto dealership does have an incentive agreement. And we have built into the budget, we assume that will open in '27. With that, are there any questions before the public hearing?
Seeing none, thank you, Kyle. At this point, we'll open the public hearing. Seeing no comment, we'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any additional comments, or I'll look for a motion to approve? This goes so much faster if you guys will just make the motions.
This is also just
a hearing. There's no motion.
Motion to adjourn the CDA.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Apparently I need to pay attention. This would go a lot faster if I would pay attention. Okay, we'll go on to our next meeting, the Herriman City Fire Service Area meeting. We'll call that to order at this point. We'll start with 2.1. We'll do a budget officer intent to state that the fiscal year 2027 tentative budget for the Herriman City Fire Service Area, or HCFSA, includes a proposed property tax increase. Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. So I will be making a statement in the next agenda item regarding the proposed tax increase.
Okay. 2.2, budget officer statement that the fiscal year 2027 tentative budget for the Herriman City Fire Service Area includes a proposed property tax rate increase.
Thank you. So I do have the statement on the screen. So the tentative budget does include an increase in property tax revenue that exceeds the certified tax, totaling $205,560, and that intends to cover the contract increase from Unified Fire Authority. The estimated ad valorem tax increase is 2.4%, and we will be holding a public hearing on August 12th, 2026 at 7 p.m. In the City of Herriman Council Chambers.
Perfect. Thank you, Kyle. Okay, 3.1, public hearing to receive public comment on the tentative fiscal years 2027 and 2028 Herriman City Fire Service Area budgets.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got the tentative budget up on the screen. I did want to highlight a couple things. So overall, we are anticipating a 3% property tax revenue increase. That's in addition to the growth number. As I mentioned, it does include a $205,560 tax increase that I made the statement on earlier. Our member fee assessment is projected to go up $205,556. And then just as a reminder or an FYI, so the remainder of funding from that property tax increase will go into what I'm calling a savings account, restricted funding for use for future fire stations. Our long-term plans are not solidified. We do see the need. We will probably need at least 2 more stations. Our long-term planning is showing once we hit that second station, we will not have sufficient revenues to cover the operating and capital costs. So that is one reason why we are proposing small increases as we go along to try to delay the shock of a very large increase when the next station opens. I can't remember if I don't think there's an item on this one. It's very confusing. So the next one is the property tax impact schedule. This was also required with changes in state law. So this does say we will consider an increase to our property tax rate from 0.001352 to 0.001385. I do want to make note, this is actually last year's values because we do not have the new year's values yet. That increase would generate an additional $205,560. What this impact schedule is supposed to help is help people understand how the operations would be affected if the tax increase is adopted. So you can see the additional revenue of $205,560, and then the proposed revenue would be $8,757,627 For average residence is $640,000. That was last year's average home value in Herriman according to the Salt Lake County Assessor's Office. That would be an increase of $11.62 per year, and then the business of the same amount would be $21.12. Furthermore, on the narrative, what the impact of the tax increase is, it will be used to cover the contract increase from Unified Fire Authority that we went over, and that the difference between the contract fee and the property taxes, as I said, will be saved for future fire stations. If for some reason the board decides not to approve a tax increase, the fire service area will need to bond in a greater amount for future fire stations. And in addition, we will most likely need larger tax increases. Future tax increases will be needed for staff and operating expenditures of those stations. Couple notes on here. So I did mention that the tax rates are on 25's tax rates, so we will know our updated tax rates hopefully in the next week or two. And I will also note the budget is a 2-year budget. The tax impact statement is only for 27. 28 will have to be considered next year. Just wanted to make note, the tax increase is only for the 1 year. And with that, are there any questions for me before the public hearing tonight? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Okay, at this point, we'll open for public comment. Here we go, Jonathan.
Jonathan Brooks, just out of curiosity, 8 years ago, we incorporated for our own police department. Have people thought about leaving Unified and having our own? If we're planning on building more stations here, could we do it on our own?
Thank you, Jonathan. I would just say, those, I mean, be perfectly kind of blunt, I think those conversations are always on the table. I think we're always looking out. Right now, the numbers right now show that we could not do it for less right now at this. It doesn't mean we have great partners right now in Unified, but that number, I mean, there's nothing against Unified, truly isn't. That's just always something I think that a city has to, I mean, it's against Anthony, but it's just Anthony, it's just personal, but I think a city of our size always has to be looking at that. But right now, the numbers, we've run the numbers to look, and right now it doesn't show. Right now, we're actually paid less for, we technically pay for 1.9 stations, technically, if I'm remembering the numbers right.
We pay for about 1.85 this year. We have 3 first response stations. So because of the way the model is done, it's to our benefit. There will come time again as we continue to grow to the west. We anticipate a station out in the west to service that area. That station will likely, most of it will fall on Herriman residents because it's not really going to respond outside. We'll have another station in the south east part of the city. That one, because of its connection to the eventual highway there, could end up down in Eagle Mountain or something, but mostly it would probably be with us. So again, as we grow, we think based on some of the software that the fire department has, we can get by with 4 stations. But right now, that pooled resource is a benefit to us.
Here's my report from the
there you go.
from the UFA board. All right, so I also chair the finance committee for their budget, which is over $100 million this year for that organization. So this is, I promise to keep it as a summary. You all have heard this a bunch before. Can we go back a couple of slides to where we showed the amount collected versus the amount we're paying them? That one. All right, so there's a 2-part answer to your question, right? So originally, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but going back to UPD, I'm one who went through this as well. There's a taxing district and then the service provider. The taxing district for UPD was Salt Lake Valley Law Enforcement Service Area, Slavisa, and then UPD. We had to exit the taxing district, create our own taxing district to where we control the money. If we're just part of the district, it goes to that district. It's 18-member board, and they just passed it right through to UPD. We didn't really have control over our money or the level of service that we got. So we separated from the taxing district. Now we have our own taxing district. This board And that's what it is for that district, right? It is the board controls that money, and then we contract for that service. For UPD, we chose not to contract for service with them. We created our own in-house. At that time, for the same amount of money we were paying UPD for the service, we doubled the number of officers, right? And so we've kept that going, and that's the next budget we'll talk about. What we've done so far with UFSA, it was the taxing district that we were a part of, so it was the same deal. So that first number, the budget without the tax change, we've done one other increase is all. The one we did 2 years, no, it was last year. Really just for the inflationary amount as well, but that's the amount that was just going to the taxing district, and they were using it for what they wanted. We had no real control of that, over $8 million. So we separated from the UFSA taxing district to create our own, to where we then control the money, and we just contract directly now with UFA for them to provide the service. So the big separation there is that we, the city, own the land and the building. The service provider, UFA, provides the engines and equipment and the people. And so the cost of those things, especially the people, goes up a little bit each year. So the difference between what it costs us to run the 2 stations that we have, so these numbers, 5.89 million, versus the amount that we're collecting, the 8.5, we're much better off. And so what we've done so far with that difference is we're rebuilding Station 101 right now. That's been a temporary building for 40 years, right? And we had no control over that. It was part of the taxing district. We had to get in line with all the other cities to do that. So we've actually are in the process of rebuilding that. We're paying cash with what we've saved by exiting that taxing district the last few years. So then going forward, we know we're going to need a couple of more stations. So we're basically separating that money, setting it aside to pay for those stations. And when UFA comes in with their new cost increase, right? For this year, $205,000, $556, right? We're going to pass that inflationary cost on to the whole tax base. So I can get way into the weeds with all the numbers, but our cost for service increase, UFA in total was 3.65. Our tax increase for our entire population was only 2.4, because we spread it out over all of the new homes as well, and that we're able to set that aside for those 2 new buildings. Now, Kyle pointed out that doing that math, looking ahead, even with the $2 to $3 million that we're saving by having our own taxing district, we're not going to be able to build those 2 new stations fully. So rather than wait until the shoe drops and we've got to do a big tax increase and do a big bond, we're going to add 0.6% onto the 2.4 and put that extra $100,000 into that savings account to fully fund those stations as we get there.
Okay.
I can go into as much detail as you want offline, but that's the.
Lets me know that you guys know what the heck's going on, and I appreciate it.
The other comment that I'll make is we've made significant progress on getting them to really get their cost increases in line with true inflation. That increase this year is $205,000. Last year was the lowest ever. It was $146,000, I want to say. Kyle can probably. Numbers. I think it was 146. Prior to that, our average increases were between $300,000 and $500,000. So again, members on our board, long-serving member, myself being there and chairing that finance committee, I've driven them to get some planning in place to keep those increases really just in line with inflation, rather than, well, we're used to doing 5%, let's just do 5% and we'll go spend it. So we really are working hard to keep those issues down. And I make the comment every single year, yes, we evaluate it. Do we want to continue to use them as a provider, or is it better to do it ourselves? And that's a conversation that we have to have every single year to adequately represent the taxpayers. Okay, now I'm done.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Look for motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Look for a motion to approve.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to, I give up.
Make a motion to adjourn the
I
FCF.
did make the motion.
Wait,
Second.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good grief.
I was ready. I knew it.
Thanks, Jared, thanks. You were waiting for it. Okay. We'll now go into our Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area meeting. We'll start with item 2.1, Budget Officer intent to state that the fiscal year 2027 tentative budget for the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area includes a proposed property tax increase.
The next item I will give a statement on a potential tax increase.
Okay, 2.2, Budget Officer statement that the fiscal year 2027 tentative budget for the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area includes a proposed property tax rate increase. Kyle.
Thank you. So my statement as the budget officer is the tentative budget includes an increase in property tax revenue that exceeds the certified tax totaling $512,970 that intends to cover inflationary costs incurred by the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area. I'm going to abbreviate that as HCC in the future. The estimated ad valorem tax increase is 5%. There will be a public hearing on August 12th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the City of Herriman Council Chambers.
Okay, perfect. 2.3, discussion on Herriman Police Department interim funding and employee compensation timing. Kyle.
Thank you. I did want to take some time tonight and go over the new state statutes, and then also, as we've discussed as staff, some funding questions that we would like some direction on. So first, I do have the new truth and taxation requirements on the screen. Anything in red is new. So we have completed step one, so we have adopted a tentative budget, and then I've been making that statement every meeting. And just as you know, I do have to make that statement about the tax increase anytime we talk about the budget until the final budget's adopted. The next part is adopting a tax rate on or before June 22nd, so that is proposed to be at the next meeting in 2 weeks. So this is just stating that we are planning on adopting a rate that's greater than the certified tax rate. And then new this year is before June 30th, which we will do at the next meeting, is adopt an interim budget, and I will show you what that looks like. Essentially, they want you to show on your budget that you're separating the tax increase, and that goes into a restricted account that cannot be spent until the final budget's adopted. So on July 22nd, the county will mail out the valuation notices like they do every year. On or before July 29th, our city recorder will need to do advertising. That hasn't changed. What she has to do has changed a little bit, but not anything too dramatically. One thing is on August 11th, or the day before our tax hearing, and I should have had that in red, we do have to publish on our website instructions for how the public can attend virtually and participate virtually. We do have to allow public comment via electronic means versus just written like we have in the past, so that has changed. And then on August 12th is the meeting, which we will decide if the tax increase will be approved or not, and then hopefully adopt a final budget. A final budget does have to be adopted before September 1st. So I did give you an example of what the interim budget will look like. So essentially what the difference is the proposed tax increase is on a separate line item. The state doesn't necessarily give us a template on how to do this, but reading state code, I believe this is what they are intending. And this interim budget will be in effect from July 1st until the final budget is adopted on August 12th. I will give the legislature praise on this because it has been a gray area for many years, is what do you do until your truth and taxation hearing, because you really don't have a budget. So this does at least alleviate that. So I do give them credit for that. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we cannot expend, so we can't spend or obligate that amount we're asking for in the tax increase. So moving on to one of the items we'd like feedback on is, because the police department is primarily funded through the safety enforcement area and the tax increase is needed to fund salaries, the general employees of the city are in the general budget, which does not include a tax increase. It does raise the question of when do we give those police employees their increase? Do we make it different from when a general employee gets it? Because normally an employee would get it July 1st. Do we make any changes because of the police department's funding technically not being available until the truth and taxation hearing? So staff has come up with 3 options. So one would be to fund the police employee increases July 1st with the general city increases to keep the city as a whole and as one unit. The second option is deferring the police department increases until the final budget is adopted. We would back pay those employees to July 1st with the next paycheck. We would still fund the general employees July 1st. The option 3 is to wait and implement both on August 12th if the tax increase is approved. We would back pay all of the employees at that time. The thought with option 3 is it would keep all the employees the same.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
For option number 1, would this money pay back the general fund money?
So we would still use HCC funding. However, we would, essentially what we'd be doing is eliminating this transfer, the restricted transfer out that I have as a 561,460, and that would be used to cover those increases until the tax increase.
I see.
Effect.
In the past, I think last time we did option 2, we just want to be really clear so we can communicate it with our law enforcement employees, what we're going to do.
What is your recommendation and/or preference?
Yes.
And then I would suggest we just kind of set that as an ongoing policy.
My preference would be option 1, just because then we don't have to back pay. Our new system can back pay much easier than our old system. However, it is additional work, not as much as the old system, but.
That's why I added that second one. What's your preference? Because that seems like a big hassle.
I agree.
Go with that.
Okay.
And we're certainly comfortable with option 2. That's a precedent that has been set with our department. We would probably oppose option 3. We don't want the rest of the city to be held back by our funding challenges. So
I'm good on 1. I'd like to do 1.
How about we do option 4, just pay everybody on Jan 1? I'm just joking. No, I think the option 1's would be the preferred. Obviously, the amount of work in August that would have to
I mean,
retro pay.
essentially,
You're going to pay them
if we do this, yeah,
Yeah.
it comes back around at the end of the year, right? So it's kind of painful the first time we do it, but then after that, we're kind of.
Right, exactly. So shifting gears, moving more towards the public hearing presentation for that, and then I do have to present the property tax impact schedule similar to fire. Once again, I'm just going to do some highlights on the tentative budget. The majority of the proposed tax increase is to pay for police department services, specifically personnel. 2 weeks ago when I did the full tentative budget discussion, I did show how much the COLA step and merits for those employees, not the step program, in just that natural increase does cost the department. Their operating was fairly flat. The now police chief did a very good job going and cutting his budget as much as he could. I will put that in. I did mention already in the general meeting, we do have some new hires coming out of the growth money, which I do have a graphic to kind of show how that works. A commander and sergeant in 27, and then a police in 28. And then, as I mentioned, we restrict our growth money, so at the end of 28, we will have about 1.5 million in fund balance. I couldn't find a nice way of making this look nice, because it gets a little complicated. But just really quickly to go over our property tax philosophy. So as all of you know, as board members, how property tax in Utah works is we receive the base amount every year that's the same, but we do get an addition for new growth. So if inflation is 20%, we get the same amount as last year, plus any new businesses, residences, et cetera. I do like to know, because people think we're just getting free money. That's not the case because we have to provide services to those new residents and businesses that come into our city. So looking at the proposed 27 budget, so our base funding, it will be about 10.9 million. We are anticipating about 408,000 in growth funding, and then the proposed tax increase of 512,970, which would mostly cover those salary increases I talked about, and that all makes up the one property tax number we get from Salt Lake County. And then here is the tentative budget again for the HCC fund itself. I do like to show where the property tax is showing about 11.853 million. 4% of that's growth, and the 5% is that proposed tax increase. And then down at the bottom, you'll notice I reduce that transfer out is actually what goes to pay for the police department in the general fund. That's what that transfers out is. It's reduced by that growth money to show that we're restricting that for new growth expenses. Moving on to the property tax impact schedule. As you can see, using last year's property tax rates, it would be going from 0.001440 to 0.001513, which would generate an additional 512,970. And you can see down here our current tax revenue is about 10,211,240. With the change, if approved, would be 10,724,210, or a difference of 512,970. And they're looking at an average residence of 640,000. That would be an increase every year of $25.70 for a business of the same value, $46.72, and that has equated to a 5% increase. Looking over on the narrative, so the impact of the tax increase is, as you know, the board's philosophy is that we do segregate new growth money to be used solely for the effects of new growth. So therefore, any other increases faced by the police department, such as salary increases, step increases, must be funded with tax increases. The proposed increases to cover those normal pressures. So if the proposed tax increase is not approved, the HCC would be forced to draw on funds segregated for new growth to cover those regular operations. So over the long term, what the effect would be is when the police department needs to hire more officers due to growth, the funding won't be available. I did not put it in the tax statement, but most likely that would lead to a tax increase, but of course that would be up to the board to decide. And the notes are the same as the fire, so I won't necessarily go over those. So any questions before the public hearing tonight? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item 3, our public hearing to receive public comment. We'll open the public comment at this time.
We're looking at you, Jonathan.
Okay, seeing none, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
hold on. I've got to make sure we do this. Adjourn this, and then we got to come back to
General
general meeting. So motion to adjourn this and go back to general. Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Tara. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we got to bring that. I left my sheet in there. Did anybody keep their sheet? Same item, litigation. Okay.
I'll make a motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to go into closed meeting for the following purposes as provided in Utah State Code annotated 52-4-205. C, strategy session discuss pending or reasonable intimate litigation.
Not intimate.
I know. Intimate. Anonymity.
Okay, motion by Teddy. Do I have a second? Second by Jared. We'll go Jared.
Yes.
Teddy.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Tara. I know, but yes. So we'll go into close. We'll go back into Fort Herriman. Todd, Nathan, Wendy, council. Do we need Blake? Do we need Trevor?
Yes, because we're.
Trevor, Blake, do we need, Blake wants to go home. Do we need Blake? Not Blake. Blake, go home. Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
We need chief.
We need chief. We don't need you.
Initiation.